Okay, here we go. All right, so live on YouTube. Oh, live on YouTube, live on Instagram. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, my dear brothers, my dear sisters. What men of deen? What to turn it? Oh, okay. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, how are you? Man, it's been a while. About 3 weeks, almost a month. Um, been on a long journey, long journey. Alhamdulillah. Today is Friday, Jummah Mubarak, best day of the week, approaching the best hour of the week here in Southern California. It is Friday, uh, late morning, 10:46 in the early morning, in the late morning. Beautiful day today. You know, this window right behind me, for some reason, hummingbirds like to come. So you might catch the whir of a hummingbird, inshallah. How are you? So for those of you who are new to the broadcast, the Diaries podcast, the my primary purpose, brothers about marriage, in particular, trying to get brothers ready. That being said, sisters are welcome to join, and really, I'm speaking to brothers, but if you are a conscious sister and you're really trying to understand men and what motivates us and what makes us tick and what we want. Um, no better place to hear it than from a man who's talking to men. So there's always something here for sisters. Just got to flip that coin. Um, for those of you who are new, whether you're what stage you are in practicing, not practicing. Or if you're not practicing at all, maybe you're a Christian, maybe you're some other religion. It just means that you're not practicing Islam. No problem. If you're a man, there's something here for you. If you're a woman, there's something here for you. So welcome, welcome. So today, I'm going to talk about obedience. Um, I'm going to talk about obedience because it's really important, man. I hesitate to say that it's the most important element of a a marriage, um, but I will say that it's pretty high up there. It's really high up there. I want to go. So as always, my primary point of reference in anything that I speak about, you know, um, whether I pinpoint it exactly or I don't, it's always going to be the Quran and Sunnah. Yes, I've got my own personal experience, but I try and shape the advice that I'm giving um, through the lens of the Quran and even personal life, the reference. So I'm going to read a hadith, and man, I found out about this hadith about 2 months ago, and it was quite shocking. Okay, so the hadith reads. So Abu Huraira reported the Messenger of Allah said, if a woman prays her 5 prayers, fasts her month of Ramadan, guards her chastity, and obeys her husband, she will enter paradise from any gate she wishes. It just it seems too easy to be true, but it has to be true. My first thought is, Damn, what a blessing to be a woman. You know, you think about this, right? The entire reason that we're here, the reason I have a podcast, the reason, I'm a good father to my kids. I try to be the best father I can be. I try to be the best husband I can be. I try to be the best son I can be. The reason, I'm sitting on this chair, all the things that I do, the reason that we're here, the reason for this life, for this test, the reason for it, everything, judgment, good deeds, bad deeds, all of it. The reason for all of it is to get to Jannah. Like that's what all this is about. This whole rat race, dealing with all this fitna, and, you know, controlling your nafs and resisting temptation and fasting and Ramadan and paying zakat and giving to charity and being good to orphans and all of this, all of it. The whole reason is to get to Jannah. The reason we please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to get to Jannah. And here's this hadith. You've got the whole Quran, all of the hadith, all these rules you have to follow, all these things you have to do. And here, in this one hadith, and it's only for women, in such simple and direct terms, what any woman on planet Earth, one, two, three, four things she has to do, and she is guaranteed Jannah. Now, somebody's going to have to correct me if I'm wrong or point out the hadith to me, but I've never seen a hadith like this for men. Like, just do this, just do these three things, or these four things, or these five things. And Jannah, I've read the whole Quran. I've read it one and a half times. I'm going through it a second time. I've never seen anything like this for men. If a woman prays her 5 prayers, okay, I pray my 5 prayers. So, I mean, it's hard, but it's not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard to pray your 5 prayers. Is it? Is it hard to pray 5 times a day? I mean, really, the only issue could possibly be Fajr. Every other prayer, there's no reason to not pray. I mean, unless you're in some extreme circumstance, or you're traveling. But if you're traveling, you don't have to pray. I mean, so praying 5 prayers is not hard. I mean, praying 5 prayers, once you get into the habit, once you get into the routine, it's easy. You just do it. You set the alarm and you just get up. I mean, it's really only one prayer that's controversial, one prayer that's actually some level of difficulty. But once you establish the pattern, then you just roll into it. So pray your 5 prayers. I mean, but think about this, right? Because women only have to pray. Women don't have to pray when they're on their menses. Once a year, you get Fajr down. The rest, once you get Fajr down, the rest is easy. Yeah. Once you get it down, it's easy, man. It's just you don't really think about it. You just do it. You go to sleep at 2:00, and you set the alarm to get up at 4. And sometimes you'll miss, but most of the time you'll hit. Like, it's not hard to pray your 5 prayers, right? And then on top of that, When women are on their periods, they don't have to pray. You know, so it's really, only, and when women are children, they don't have to pray, right? I mean, you should make them pray in advance, but really, you don't have to pray when you're a child. And the only time women have to pray all 5 prayers is the latter part of their life when their period ends. So roughly around 45 years, assuming the average woman maybe lives till around, I don't know, depending on the country, but we'll say a global average of around 70. So it's roughly 45 to 55, 65 to 75, roughly 20 to 25 years that women have to pray, and then if you're old and your movement, like you don't, like, so it's really just a short window of time, relatively speaking. Like, as men, we have to pray all 5 prayers from the time that we're adults, period, or not period, puberty. Um, let's say we'll cut it off 15. Let's say from the time we're 15 until we're dead, right? So we'll say 70 years. 70 years old. Let's say the average male dies at 70 years old, from 15 to 70 years old. That's 65 years. You've got to pray all. We must pray like so. Anyhow, point is, praying all 5 prayers ain't a big deal. And on top of that, women have a shorter window of time where they have to do it. And even then, there's times where they don't actually have to pray. And fast Ramadan, you know, likewise, not hard. I mean, okay, you know, it's not hard, man. It's not hard. It's sun up to sundown, 1 month of the year. And then on top of that, again, when women have their periods, they don't have to fast. Well, fine, they can put their fasting off. So there's some what do you call it? Just okay. There's some. I guess there's a Japanese word called yoyu. I don't really know how to translate it, but there's flexibility. There's some flexibility baked into it, But fasting during Ramadan, like, number one, number two, like, these are all very attainable, very achievable. 10 guards for chastity. Arguably, this is difficult, but it's difficult for men. It's real difficult for men. It's almost impossibly difficult for men. You know, Big part of it is the way our minds are cultivated from the time that we're young. Which is we're hyper exposed to women's bodies, and then this exposure becomes triggers for us later in life, forever in life. Then there's the actual, facts of our libido and testosterone and what that does to our sex drive. And then there's the constant presence of naked women or half naked women around us, that triggers this natural, inclination. But women don't have this. Once a month, when women are ovulating, there's a real intense desire for sex. But otherwise, women have a much easier time managing their sexual drive, especially outside of a relationship. Now, inside of a relationship with your husband, it's less easy to control, but relatively speaking, it's still easy to control. you know so for a woman to guard her chastity, you're really the big trigger is society and society standards. But relatively speaking, it's not hard. Damn. Last but not least, obey her husband. And she will enter paradise from any gate she chooses. Subhanallah. I commented to my wife. I just said it seems too easy, and it just doesn't seem fair. In my earthly mind, and it's just like, because it's hard. It's hard. The struggle is hard. There is no plug and play for men. There is no, 4-point plan, you know. The sisters got this, man. And last but not least, obey your husband. SubhanAllah. I just told my wife, man, this seems it seems too good to be true. It seems too simple. But this is what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And therefore it is. It really, wow. This it had me tripping, and it still has me tripping, man. So let's talk about this last one, right? Because as men, this last one pertains to us. It pertains to us directly. So what happens if you have a wife and she doesn't obey you? There's another hadith. Um, um, Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "If I were to order anyone to prostrate himself before another, I would have ordered the wife to prostrate herself before the husband." Okay, this isn't worship. This is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told all the angels to prostrate before Adam alayhi salam. It wasn't worship, it was a sign of respect and acknowledgement of man's position. This isn't about women worshiping man. It's just, I'm not going to interpret to you. It says what it says, okay? And this is about, from my understanding, I'm not a scholar, a person of knowledge, or anything like that. I'm just reading this and using my own brain and common sense to understand it, But if I look at what a man has to do, for a woman, we must provide food, clothing, and shelter for a lifetime for our wives. We must endeavor every single day, from the day that we get married until the day that we die. We must. We have no choice. And if you can't earn it, you still have to endeavor. So it doesn't really change anything. Whether you earn it or you don't earn it, you still have to work every single day to get it. You must. Whether you're in a good mood with her or a bad mood, whether she's nice to you or not nice to you, like, come rain or come shine, you don't do it for her. You do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You must provide protection and provision for your wife. Period, full stop. It's not a righteous man. It's every man. It's not relative to any other statement. Okay? And actually, it's not only that. We are the protectors and the providers for women, not just our wives. This is a society broad thing. We are responsible as men to protect and to provide for women. Women must obey only their husbands. Okay, so the burden, responsibility, the onus upon men is great. Okay, and fellas, don't downplay and don't minimize. Okay, we're living, at least in the West, we're living in a highly feminized society, and the role and the responsibility and the sacrifice of men is constantly undermined, underplayed, overlooked, swept under the carpet, no big deal, non-existent. Our sacrifice is ignored. Don't you do that to yourself. Don't minimize the work that you have to do as a man, the sacrifice that we make as men for the sake of the entire society. Okay, we men have created the entire physical world that you see. Anything that's built by man was built by a man. Every road, all the telecommunications infrastructure that allows the internet, everything, all the, the gas pipelines, the oil out in the ocean, everything that makes this modern society run was built by men. And many of these men have died making this sacrifice to take care of everyone. So the sacrifice is great, and it doesn't mean that you puff yourself up and you walk around in arrogance. This is a responsibility. And the funny thing is, across every culture, across every religion, all men, and when I say all, I never speak in absolutes, but by and large, men know that we have to protect and we have to provide. Somehow, it's in our fitra, and somehow that part of our fitra remains intact even in this modern society. Men know, we know, even the brothers who don't, they know it's their responsibility. And most of us just get our heads down and we just grind, we just work. If there's nothing else to do, we just work. Barring any other instructions, we work, we fight, we do whatever has to be done to make this baby run. We just feel we just feel innately that this is our role and this is our purpose, to protect and provide. If there's ever a situation where there's some kind of a threat, man will step up. This is what we do. So I can understand this reference to this hadith about why, if that were the case, that this would be the case, because the sacrifice is great. I have a daughter, and I'm going to have to find a man somewhere, somewhere in the future, somewhere on this planet, who's going to give his life every single day for my daughter. And if I find this man, inshallah, I will find this man. She owes him obedience. And it's not forced. It's a willful, desire to obey her husband. And just like the rest of these, is it hard? You think about it, because what are the criteria for this obedience? If your husband tells you to do anything that goes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran, the Hadith, anything, you have no obligation to obey him. But outside of that, anything that he asks you to do, you should be happy to do. But why is it that so many women have a hard time even with this word, obey, obey, obey? What's the problem? Why don't they want to obey? And what happens if you are married to a woman who's not going to obey you? Well, first and foremost, man, I've gone over this hadith before. I'll put it in the link or in the description to the live. But to paraphrase, and I'm pretty sure this is a direct quote of this portion of the Quran, that the righteous wife obeys her husband. Okay, the righteous wife obeys her husband. Righteous wife obeys her husband. So the question is, fellas, do you want a righteous wife? Why are you here? Have you decided to go to Jannah? Right? This is the first most pivotal question. Have you decided in your heart, in your mind, have you decided I'm going to Jannah? Inshallah, I'm going to Jannah. I'm going to shape my life around the Quran and the Sunnah, and I'm gonna do my level best while I'm here. Now, if you've made that decision, then the question of do you want a righteous wife? It's a no-brainer. Like, you must have a righteous wife. Because the only alternative to a righteous wife is an unrighteous. Must have a righteous wife. Because the only alternative to a righteous wife is an unrighteous wife. So, assuming that you are a righteous man, that you have made the decision in your mind and in your heart to go to Jannah, to spend your life trying, really trying to get to Jannah, how on earth would you make that decision and then make a conscious decision to be married to an unrighteous woman? And where do you think that's going to take you? Unrighteous woman will be in hell. Righteous woman will be in Jannah. It's pretty simple, right? So you, a righteous man, a man who's decided to go to Jannah, then make the decision to marry or stay married to a woman who has made the decision to go to hellfire. Make it make sense. Like, I wish it were more complicated. Maybe I'm missing some big something, but I'm not missing it. This is a very simple hadith. Okay? Very, very simple hadith, man. 1, 2, 3, 4. If a woman prays her 5 prayers, fasts her month of Ramadan, guards her chastity, and obeys her husband, she will enter paradise from any gate she chooses. If a woman knows this, so let's say you're in a marriage. Okay, we're not talking about a relationship. We're not talking about a girlfriend or any of this foolishness. Okay, we heard I put an emphasis on the F, foolishness, right? Any of this modern foolishness, situations. We're talking about husband and wife. Now, if you are in a marriage to a woman who doesn't pray her 5 prayers, fast the month of Ramadan, guard her chastity, obey her husband, then your first duty, I would say, is to bring this hadith to her, because it's all a decision. It's very simple. Like, either you're married to a woman who has also decided to go to Jannah in her mind and in her heart. She sat down and she's like, I'm in this life. I don't want to go to the hellfire. I want to go to Jannah. My Rabb, what do I have to do? You've got all the hadith and all the Quran, and you're fishing around inside here, and you're trying to match them, you're trying to hit them all. This is what we're doing as men, but then women have this one, bam, this one hadith. Bring this to her attention. You say, sweetheart, we're having some issues. You're not obeying me, and it's causing issues in our marriage. I'm doing my best. I've made a decision. I want to go to Jannah. I'm working my butt off every single day to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, to be the best Muslim I can be, to get to Jannah. I'm trying. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And I think you can recognize this. I want you to read this hadith and step through it with her one by one and ask her, do you want to go to Jannah? Like, just listen, because, brothers, we are the leaders. We are the leaders. We're supposed to lead our wives to Jannah. So there's no more important conversation than this conversation right here. She's the teacher for your children. She's the example for your daughters, and she's a prototype for your sons. She's either the albatross around your neck or the wings underneath your feet. There's no conversation more important than this conversation. If you're married or if you're about to get married, this hadith right here. This hadith right here. I wish I had known this before I got married, but I still, I still verified this, but just this is really, really succinct. Mashallah, it's a beautiful hadith, man. This is the moment of truth. This is where the rubber hits the road. This is a 5-minute conversation, not even 5 minutes, man. This is a 3-minute conversation. The time it takes to read the hadith, a few seconds of contemplation, I would suppose. I mean, either she's made the decision or she hasn't made the decision. But if you want to be graceful, gracious, say, listen, I don't know. First of all, ask her, do you know of this hadith? Yes, no. The answer is no. Read the hadith and ask her, do you pray your 5 prayers every day? And mashallah, if you get this, if you get to this conversation before you get married, you've got a very, very clear and strong litmus test as to whether this woman is a woman that's worth marrying or not. Either she is or she's not. Man, this is beautiful. Ask her, do you pray your 5 prayers? Yes, I pray my 5 prayers. To check. Do you fast during Ramadan? Check mark. Have you guarded your chastity? Do you guard your chastity? Maybe she slipped up, once or twice. She got promised marriage, and the guy changed his mind, and she got, life happens. Okay, but messing up is not the same thing as not guarding your chastity. Messing up is not the same as, she's just promiscuous, or she was just promiscuous. She was just out there having sex. Like messing up, slipping up, making a mistake, being out there without Shawali and looking for marriage, but mistaking marriage for love and, words for actions. Like mistakes can happen. Okay, but living a promiscuous lifestyle, this ain't a mistake. This is intentional. Okay, so don't get lost in the sauce, because women like to talk a whole bunch of jazz about this stuff. A mess up is a mess up. Mess up is once, maybe twice. Okay, but no sex is no sex. That's simple. No sex is no sex. Sex is sex. And so if you know you're not supposed to be having sex, and then you're out there having sex, you know what you're doing. Okay, don't get it twisted. Don't get lost in all the verbiage and the emotions and tears and crying but he told me, and that, like, once, okay, twice, hey, miss me with this foolishness. Just miss me with the whole conversation of this. You knew you were supposed to guard your chastity. You knew, but you decided to go and have sex with these men. Okay, but she guards her chastity. So assuming that these 3 are all checks. Now, when I say, again, guarding her chastity, doesn't mean that she's a virgin, but it means that she has guarded her chastity. It means that she has made an effort. Maybe she's made a mistake. Maybe 2. Keep the standard high, fellas. Keep that standard high. Keep it high. I wouldn't fudge around with this. 1, maybe 2. 1, maybe 2. I wouldn't even consider 3. And does that shrink your pool of potential women? Yes, it does. So be it. You're not trying to marry 15 sisters. You just want to marry 1. And that 1, you want that woman to have integrity, and her deen has to be important to her. Right? So don't fudge on this. 1, maybe 2. Forget 3. Okay? But let's say she's hit these last 3, and then the final question is, you're going to marry me. Do you want to obey me? Look her in the eyes. And if she hesitates for 1 second, leave it alone. If she doesn't know if she wants to be righteous or not, because the criteria is simple. Righteous women obey their husbands. If she doesn't know whether or not if she hasn't decided to be righteous, get to stepping. Or if you're married, give her some time. Talk to her about this hadith. Say, listen, give it some thought, and I want to hear what you've decided to do. If you've got all the other 3, then the only question remains about your obedience to me. Use the word. Use it over and over and over again. Obedience, obedience, obedience. That's what it is. That's what it says. It's not partnership. It's not conditional obedience. It doesn't say that righteous women are obedient to their husbands if their husbands provide all the money, if their husbands are nice to them, if their husbands are polite to them, if their husbands speak to them in a way that they like to be spoken to, if their husband buys them this and gives them X, Y, and Z, if their husband has as many children as they want to have. There's no conditionality to this. There's none. There's no conditionality. Righteous women obey their husbands. Okay, so if she comes back to you and says, well, yeah, I'll obey. I want to obey my husband if he provides. Wait, back off, get away. Okay, because our obligation to provide and to protect women, not just our wives, but women, is not conditional. Okay, don't let her obedience to you as her husband be conditional. There is no condition. And if she hesitates, she hasn't decided. If you look into those eyes as you're talking to her and say, do you want to obey me? And she takes a double breath, leave, run. That's it. 4 billion of them. Okay, 4 billion of them. Women. Okay, then you subtract the women who are too young. Okay, let's say it's half the female population is too young, and you say half of that half is too old. We got 1 billion left all around the world. 1 billion. You can find one woman in 1 billion. Okay, and then let's say less than half are Muslim, right? So that's 250 million Muslim women, right? Let's say a quarter of this 1 billion are Muslim. That's 250, over here like a mathematician, that's 250 million Muslim women, right? Is my math correct? Like that's anyhow, it's a lot, okay? And if you're talking to a sister, mashallah, she's cute and she's well-spoken and she has a good family and she's well-educated and she's pleasing to look at and she has a nice body and she's all these things, but she doesn't know if she's going to obey you. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. This my advice as a man. Okay. Having been through marriage and divorce 1, 2, 3 times. And the crux of these divorces has always been obedience. Well, 2 of them has been obedience. 1 was a circumstance that was beyond both of our control. But even in there was obedience. Okay, if your wife is not going to obey you, she is not your wife because, well, she's your unrighteous wife. And then you get to choose. Then the choice is yours. You get to choose if you're going to spend your life with a woman who has decided to go to hell because she's decided that she's not going to be righteous, because she's decided that she's not going to obey her husband. I wish it was more complicated, man. It's a hard conversation. Shouldn't be, but it is. Obey your husband means what? Your husband says, hey, sweetheart, can you make dinner? You going to obey him or you're not going to obey him? Maybe he'll get home work from tired and he'll say, hey, babe, can you make dinner? Maybe there's a bit of an edge to it. Are you going to obey him or you're not going to obey him? If he says to you, babe, dinner, please, you're going to obey him or you're not going to obey him? It's simple, ladies. It's simple. Are you going to obey him or are you not going to obey him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Sometimes you'll do it for him. We're humans. Sometimes you'll do it for him. Sometimes you just want to please him or you just want to serve him or whatnot. But sometimes you just don't want to, man. Sometimes you're tired too. Sometimes you just don't want to make him a sandwich. Are you going to obey him or are you not going to obey him? A, B, zeros and ones, man. Like, it's either truth or it's false. Like, there's nothing in between. Are you going to obey him or you're not going to obey him? You're gonna he you're living in a country and for some reason he wants to move. He thinks that the family is better off in another place, another city, another location. Maybe he'll consult with you. Hopefully, inshallah, he will. He'll say, babe, I think this is good for the family. What do you think? And you give him your feedback and da da da. He does calculations and he makes his dua and he asks for guidance. He does his istikhara and he decides, babe, yeah, you don't think that we should move, but I think that we should. I think this is the best decision for this family. Are you going to obey him or are you not going to obey him? Righteous woman obey her husband. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Obeys her husband. She will enter in paradise from any gate she chooses. Are you going to obey your husband or are you not going to obey your husband? It's a litmus test, man. It's a beautiful, clear, pristine litmus test. And if she's not going to obey you, and she's decided to not be righteous, she's decided that she wants to go to the hellfire, you as a righteous practicing brother have no, make it make sense, man. Make it make sense. She's made her choice. You get to make yours. Okay? And from a practical perspective, I've seen the result of brothers who have been with women who are disobedient, just cantankerous, nitpicky, stubborn, thick-headed, belligerent, obstinate, just don't want to listen to women, man. I've seen these brothers in these relationships, and I've seen them over the course of years, and I've seen what happens to them, and I've seen what happens to their children. You have free will, right? You as a man, you've got free will. You can choose to do whatever you want. And if you want to choose to be the woman who's going to guide you to hellfire, you can make that choice. But you don't have a right to sacrifice your children to that fate. And when you keep a woman who's decided to be unrighteous, who's decided that she is okay to go to hellfire, and you decide that this woman is going to be the example for your daughter, that this woman is going to educate all of your children, that this woman is going to be the prototype of a wife for your sons, this woman, this disobedient wife, this unrighteous wife, you decided that this woman is going to guide your children. Where else is she going to guide them but where she's going? And you as the leader, you as the husband, you as the man, you as the responsible one are going to allow this to happen. For what? For the sake of what? For the sake of love? Commitment? That's why you're going to allow this unrighteous wife to lead your children to hellfire? Because you love her? Yeah. Yeah. Ping. Pin drop. So I'm not saying that the minute that your wife disobeys you, head out the door. Obviously, we're human. So, you have an obligation to have that talk and say, listen, um, you have a choice to make. You're either going to obey me as your husband, or you're not going to obey me. If you're not going to obey me, I'm not going to stay married to you because I want a righteous wife. That's my decision. My decision is I want a righteous wife, and I would love to stay married to you, but if you have chosen to be unrighteous, I'm not going to choose to stay married to you. Honest conversation. Honest conversation, man. The most honest conversation that you could possibly have with your wife. If you are not going to be obedient to me as your husband, I'm not going to stay married to you. If you're going to constantly fight me, everything that I do, I'm not obligated to to consult you for all the decisions that I make as the man of this house. Now I consider you intelligent and I'll consult you for major decisions, but even then the decision is mine to make. And if you are going to be obedient to me, if you're going to be righteous, then you're going to obey me. And if you're not going to obey me, I'm not going to stay married to you. Like that's basically it, man. Again, I wish it were more complicated. That's what it is. That's the conversation. That's the line in the sand. It's the line in the sand. And in my life, man, I've drawn many lines and in sand, man, and line up in the desert for me, man. I keep on drawing lines. And the lines are clear because the Quran and the Sunnah are clear, man. I can't be ambiguous. You know, if I'm going to Jahannam, or I'm going to Jannah, there's clear lines. There's clear lines for me. You know, so when you're drawing lines, make clear lines for your wife, man. Right there. This is the line. Are you going to cross that line or not? You know, allow her. You know, give her the respect of giving her a clear decision to make. So you can also make a clear decision for your life, and if you have children, for your children. You know, man, it's shocking how clear God is. You know, the more I read the Quran, it's so crystal clear. You know, everything we have to do, so immaculately organized. Pray 5 times a day. Before you pray, make wudu. When you make wudu, this is the order. So clear, so precise, so organized. No grayness, no ambiguity. It's fair. It's fair to be clear, because then we get to choose. So when you're dealing with this situation with your potential wife or your current wife, don't be ambiguous. Don't talk around the bush and hem and haw. And, well, you know, I kind of need you to kind of listen to me, babe. Like, no. If you have decided to be righteous, then I need you to obey me. I need you to obey me as your husband. If you cannot obey me as your husband, I will not remain married to you. Do you understand? It's critically important to me. It is critically. There is no issue that is more important for me as it pertains to you in our marriage than this issue. Do you understand? I understand. Take a few minutes, take a few hours. Please go and consider this deeply. The deepest depths that you have, go there. Think about this life, think about the afterlife, think about our children, think about everything in your past, think about the future that you want. Please think about all these things. Come back and tell me. I won't ask you again. Just come and tell me the decision that you've made. Are you going to obey me as your husband or not from this day forward? And please, please, please be honest, because I will watch your actions. If I find that you tell me that you're going to obey me, and then I tell you to do something, or I ask you to do something that's not going against the Quran, the Sunnah, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I've done none of these things and you choose not to obey me, this will be the end of our marriage. I'm being as clear and intentional with my words as I possibly can. You have control over your actions. You have control over your words. You have control over what you do and do not do. Do you not? Are you out of control of yourself? If you need therapy because you're having some mental, emotional issues that are causing you can't control yourself, we can get you into some therapy. But other than that, if you have full control of your facilities, then it's a choice that you get to make. And your choice will predicate my choice. There's nothing more to say. There's not one word more to say. In the conversation, let her go. Let her come back. You only need a week. Don't even need a whole day. Later that evening, have the conversation. Hear what she says, then you make your decision. Make it first and foremost for your soul. But if you are married and if you do have children, then make it for the sake of your children. And as hard as it may seem, it's not hard if you believe what you believe, if you have decided to go to Jannah. Now, there is the issue of, the law and assets and custody, and that's kind of a different conversation for a different day, but it's intricately connected to this conversation. I don't want to really, because I've been long already, I don't want to have too long of a podcast, but you have to take these things into account because, say, for example, you have this conversation, she says, I'm not going to obey you, then she knows that you've decided the marriage is going to end, right? You have to be prepared for that eventuality. You have to. So whatever, if you have to talk to a lawyer, if you have to talk to an imam prior to drawing this line, this is a definite line that you're drawing. So you also have to be prepared to make the decision that you must make. So whoever you have to talk to make sure that you're ready, that you're spiritually ready, that you are logistically ready, that you are financially ready, that you are legally ready for whatever the repercussions of this. Have those discussions and make those preparations. Be smart, be strategic. But the most important thing you have to do is get to Jannah. And you have to recognize that you cannot be married to a woman who has decided, who has made a decision, a conscious decision in her own mind, in her own soul, that I want to go to hell. I want to go to hellfire just because I don't want to obey my husband. That if you stay married to that woman, that she's only pulling you in one direction. She's only pulling you, guiding your children in one direction. I wish you were more complicated than that. And if anyone has any comments or experience that would counter this, or add a wrinkle to this discussion that would make it more complicated, please give me a call. Let me, I want to hear your perspective, man. But it's really clear. It's really simple. I think we're gonna leave it there for today. It's funny, like I would like to say more, but there really isn't more to say about this. Make sure you marry a righteous woman. Make sure you marry a woman who wants to obey you. Ladies, sisters, the hadith is right there. If a woman prays her 5 prayers, fasts the months of Ramadan, guards her chastity, and obeys her husband, she will enter paradise from any gate she chooses. Wow. Wow, what a blessing, man. What a blessing to have such clarity. Any gate she chooses. It's right there, man. Ladies, don't make it complicated. It's not pending your emotions, not how he talks to you, or if he gained weight and he's fat, or if he smells bad, or if he's grumpy, or any of these things. If, listen, he may make a decision and you told him so, and he made the decision, it was wrong and it hurt financially, and you lost money, and you had to sell the house, and you moved to the wrong country. Like, big, big, big mistakes a dude can make. It don't matter. Meaning that your obedience to him is not subject to whether or not he makes decisions that you deem smart. It's not. A righteous wife obeys her husband. Doesn't a righteous wife obey her smart husband? A righteous wife didn't say a righteous wife obeys her husband that makes decisions that are financially good for the family. A righteous wife obeys a husband that is in great shape, or is in good shape, or who's not fat, or who smells good. There's none of these things. A righteous wife doesn't say a righteous wife obeys a husband who's in a good mood most of the time. None of these things. Not conditional. A righteous wife obeys her husband. Make it simple. It's very simple. Ladies, sisters, obey your husband. Find a man that you respect. Find a man who's on Dean. Find a man who is on Dean. That's why Dean is the number one, the number two, and the number three criteria when you're looking for a husband. Make sure your husband is a man of Dean. Make sure that he has decided to go to Jannah, that he lives his life to the best of his ability, and he's making a daily, constant effort to live according to the Quran and Sunnah. Marry that man and obey him. Sweetheart, can you rub my back? Sweetheart, I'd like to have sex. Like, first of all, who asks their wife like this? But anyway, hey, it's 5 o'clock. You think we can have sex right now? But you know what I'm saying. When he puts his feelers out there, whether they're figurative or literal feelers, like when he wants to have sex with you, have sex with your husband. But yeah, I'm not in the mood. Yeah, like, okay, you can tell him, sweetheart, I'm not really. Can we do it later? And he says, yeah, we can wait. Sure, no problem, fine. But he says, listen, babe, we've been waiting for like the last 2 hours. And if he wants to have sex with you, have sex with your husband. If he wants you to rub his back, rub his feet, rub his back, rub his feet. I mean, forget the obedience, because he's giving his life to you every day. Like, the obedience part, really, 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 the obedience part should only come into play for sisters when you're dealing with, situations that require a very important decision to be made. But for daily stuff, obedience really shouldn't come into play. It really shouldn't be a matter of obedience. It should be a matter of you recognize that this man is busting his brains, busting his back, and busting his every single day to take care of you. And because he's doing that, you want to please him. You want to help him. You want to support him. You want to serve him, just as a matter of fairness. Even if he's not able to provide, let's say you have to work, let's say you have to work, but you see the effort that this guy is making. You see him working every day. You see him, trying to, get another job, trying to move up in his company, trying to bringing up all this stress on him just to try to fulfill his role as your husband, to be the provider. Even if he doesn't make the cut, you see what he's doing and you see how he's trying. Like, there has to be something inside you that says, mashallah, okay, yeah, babe, what can I do? What can I do to support you? What can I do to ease this burden on you, to make you feel less stress? It's not really about obedience. It really should never have to boil down to obedience. You feel that, man, you have to do it because God says you have to, but you really don't want to. Like, why? Just obey your husband. Do what he asks you to do because he asks you to do, because it pleases him, because he's working hard, because he's taking on you on his back, on his shoulders for the rest of his life until he dies. And invariably, he will more than likely die before you because of this. All right, guys. Gotta get ready for gym. I gotta wake the kids up. It's summertime. They're sleeping in late. What can I say? Any questions, comments? Anybody want to call in? We can have a chat. Otherwise, my dear brothers, my dear sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Oh, if this has been helpful to you, if this guidance, this advice, this talk has been helpful to you, please share it with at least 5 people that you feel it will be helpful for, brothers and sisters, Muslim or non-Muslim, it doesn't matter. Because if this then turns into dawah, then I get dawah points. Get 2 thumbs up. Please share it. And if you're looking for a spouse, I can help. Reach out to me right here on Instagram or hearthunter@menadeen.com. HERT hunter@menadeen.com. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi.